Welcome back. If I look exhausted, that's because I just finished mowing and edging the yard, and the Texas sun has decided that spring is over and summer has begun. If you think I look normal, that's because I look exhausted all the time. So, we're gonna. My glasses look crooked. All right. Gonna try some more puzzles. There's a check, but the king just escapes that way. And I win a pawn. Right? But that's it, as far as I can tell. There's also this check. Or this check. I like the second one better. Let's see, they can't get to me right now. This check, the king cannot escape that way because the bishop is already there, blocking off that square. And my remaining two pawns block off these squares, which force the king here. Right? So check, king has to go there. And is that mate? It might be. How about that? If you watched my last puzzle solving video, you know that yesterday I did not have a good puzzle day at all. Well, I do have a check. However, that square is guarded by the rook. So queen captures g2 check. Results, I think, in rook captures g2 check. I could follow with another protected check. Rook captures g2 check, which would force the king here. That would not be mate because there's still a rook left to capture it. I could capture back. But I would have lost a queen, a rook, and a knight for a rook, a pawn, and a rook. And I would... Wait, no, this rook... Yeah. So we would be left with these pieces, I think, if I've counted right. Check. Capture. Wait. What about check, capture, and then here? No. That doesn't make any sense. Because then there would be mate right here. Right? God, I'm bad at this. I'm going to pause this and have another think so I don't waste too much of your time. Well, honestly, I couldn't figure it out, so I'm just going to go with that. And, oh, that turned out to be right. And now it looks like I kind of have to do that. Right? Okay. But here, that forces the rook to capture, I think. I don't have any other checks. I mean, I have this check. But then two pieces can capture. Oh, should it just be this? That forces the king up, which then I can go here. This check forces the king up, and then I can fork the rook and king. Maybe. Because it's not one of these. Because either way, the king could take this front rook. So I think it's this. Oh, wow. Okay. I think I got lucky there because I could not, even with arrows and the colored squares, I just couldn't visualize all the further ramifications of that. Which seems to be why I'm losing a lot of games as well. I can see what would happen on the next move, but not after that. Okay, I'm down 2 pawns. Looks like my opponent has 2 passed pawns, and everything else is equal. Their rooks are connected, mine are not. I have a couple of checks, but I don't know how good they are, because they have to result in mate. Because if, for example, if I check here, if it doesn't result in a mate, then I'm going to get checkmated. So the other possible check is here, but that one is easily blocked. So I am thinking it has to be this check, because this my rook on the 7th file prevents the king from going back that way, right? Let me reserve the arrows for moves. If I check, my other rook cuts off these squares, and then my 6th file rook would be cutting off all these squares. So the king would be forced to go here to h5. Then my back rook, 7th file rook, would capture on h7, forcing the king forward again to g4, where I could check with a pawn, possibly one of the pawns. Again, I can't visualize past. That's about my limit, but I've got to try it. Okay, and no other move makes sense other than another check. Again, if I don't check, I'm getting mated, or I have to bring a rook back. Even that, you know what? Even if I bring a rook back, it looks like I might get mated. Yeah, so has to be that. Now it has to be a pawn check, because either one of my rooks checking now get demolished by a pawn or the king. So the question now is which pawn? This pawn move would force the king here, but then I don't have a good follow-up check. For example, if I check with that, then the king takes the first pawn. And then I can't check here because my pawn would be blocking that rank. So I think it has to be h3 check, which forces the king there. And then g3 check, which forces the king to f3, and then that's mate. I think. Here, because the king cannot go back, and it has to go here. Pretty sure. And now it has to be this. Holy cow, how many moves was that? I don't know, but that felt like a lot of moves. Okay, well, so far I'm doing much better than yesterday, but I'm still below where I was a week ago. Thank you for sticking with me. My puzzle solving videos, or even my puzzle failing videos, tend to get decent views. I'm noticing that the white king is cut off, but I can't really go in and threaten mate because the knight guards that square. The white knight guards f3. But I could threaten mate by moving here, couldn't I? Not really, because they would move a pawn up. I think. Let me think about that. If I move my queen to e4, threatening mate on g2, the queen can't, I don't think, get anywhere to guard that. And if the knight tried to get in the way, I could just take it. So I think the only possible response from white would be to move the pawn to f3, protected by the knight. And then this rook would be hitting my queen. And the pawn. Well, no, wait. Did I do that right? If I go here, I move the pawn. If I take the pawn with my rook, the knight takes back, and this rook is threatening my queen. So maybe I should take this rook first to get this rook over here, and then do that. Wait. Oh my goodness, I almost missed this. I have a check over here. That can be blocked. Okay, never mind. That check can be blocked by either the queen or the rook. So that makes me again think I need to take this rook first, so this actually has a threat. If I take this rook first, they're going to take back, and then I go there. Another option is to take this pawn. No, because that doesn't add up. I lose pieces that way. Dang it. Well, everything I've thought of lands to taking this rook first, so that's what I'm going to do. That was not it. I'm going to click the hint button. What was it? Well, first I'll try this. It wasn't that either. Okay. So none of my ideas were good. It was way down there. Oh, because the rook guards that square. Okay, well, I'll leave it in because I'm not very good at editing, for one thing. Also, maybe you'll learn something. Well, we we seem to be running out of pieces here. That's coming, right? That's why the king moved here in the first place. If I capture this rook, the pawn is going to capture back. I cannot take because the king is guarding that square. But I could go beside it, and then this king would have to move, and I could get that pawn. So I think that's it. For example, if I check here, the king just moves out of the way. But if I take the rook, the only reasonable response from white is to capture back with the pawn with check. I move forward, continuing to protect my pawn. This king cannot move back to continue protecting its pawn. All it can do is go this way, continuing to threaten mine, and then I take that one. Okay. And then because I'm in front of my pawn, I can protect this as this one's march down. Because the king can't come up. So it has to go behind if it wants to stay close or out to the side. And either way, I can march my pawn up. Okay, I got that one. Maybe I'm getting better at endgames. Yay. All right. Okay. The knight has moved here to protect this capture, I think. It wouldn't be to protect that check because my bishop guards that square, but it's protecting this capture. I have a couple of checks. But this does not look smart at all, right? Rook to e2 because the king would capture. Pawn to... My c-pawn moving forward to c3 looks more promising because why? Well, because the king wouldn't move forward into the now vacated or now unprotected square because I think then I would move here and that would be mate. So if I checked with this pawn, there's only a couple of options. One is this pawn moving forward, capturing, the b pawn capturing c3. And I could capture back, which opens this file. I captured back with check, which opens this file for this rook to come across to here, or if the king captures there, to here. And those are checks. On the other option, if I move forward, is for the king to go back. And I don't think the king wants to go back because I would have a follow-up check with the pawn. Again, when the king recaptures, leaving this open for this rook. So that, I think this is my most promising check. I don't see anything else, and I'm about to lose this. And other hilarity will ensue at that point. So I'm going to try that. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that my follow-up has to be d captures c3. Again, that moves that pawn out of the way for this rook. If the king just moves back out of check. And it also, if the king captures, this rook can go to c8. So I think that has to be it. Right? Now, if the king comes here, I move this over to protect. It's protected by the pawn, I think. So that's what I'm going to try. Okay, the king did come forward instead of capturing. So now this rook is hanging twice. So checking now with this rook would not have any effect because the king would just capture that one. I could protect it this way, but I think better is to move the rook here where it's protected by the pawn, then becomes safe from the knight and the king, and that's a check. But then what happens? If I move the rook to d4, doesn't the king just go there? And this is still hanging? That's not a check. That's the problem with that move, is that that's not a check, and the knight takes my rook. But if I check rook to d8, my corner rook there on the a8 square, if I move that to d8, then the king takes my rook. So, and if I try to protect it this way, then that rook just takes my bishop, and I'm in deeper trouble. So I think it has to be here. But what do I do if that king moves over one? I don't know. And I can't check here, right? Because then it just takes my rook. I've got to, right? Okay, and it did go there. because I'm pretty sure they knew that taking this pawn would result in that. And then the king would have to run off into the corner. So it went there. What's my follow-up? Do I have a good follow-up? Is it to protect this bishop by moving it away? Aiming at that pawn? That doesn't seem... I mean, in a game I might try this trick, trying to deflect the pawn to give me a passer. Right? I don't know if that's good. But it would, I mean, the bishop's about to die anyway. Doing that would give me a passed pawn that I don't think the opponent can get to in time. They would have to bring this back, and then I could protect here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But there's another move. I don't have any other good checks. No, that's not good, right? Pawn just takes. Oh, then I have the passer, though. But then this rook gets back in time to get in front of it. It has to be this, but that's not a forcing move. What does white do if I do that? Bring the knight back. Oh no, the rook's hanging. Oh my goodness. This rook was hanging the whole time. Why didn't I see that? Has that rook been there the whole time and I've just been able to capture it? That's got to be it, right? I can capture the rook, they'll have check, but then I can just go back? Oh my god. I'm very embarrassed about that. Okay. Wait. I think this is one of the ones I had yesterday during my downfall. Right? During, or maybe a couple of days ago. It had something to do with these diagonals here. Or wait, was this the one where I sacrificed my queen? Surely not. I don't know how many of you have actually been watching all my puzzle solving videos, but there was one just like this the other day. I was like, if my queen wasn't here, this knight is hanging. So I was like, what if I check and they block and then I just get this knight? But the answer turned out to be taking the knight now, surprisingly enough. They take my queen. Then I check. There's no c-pawn to block with. This knight's gone, so it can't block. This bishop's way down here, so it can't block. So this knight has to block. And then I take it. And the queen has to take it, because otherwise it's mate. Then I get the queen. That was it. Okay. And I didn't understand it. I still don't. But I remember that was it. So they lose a knight. Because right now we're even on material, right? We have all our pieces. The only thing we're missing is my d-pawn and their c-pawn. Okay, so I take a knight. I'm up 3 points. They take my queen. I'm down 6. I check. They block. I take. So now I'm only down 3. They take back. I'm down 6 again. I take back. I'm down 3. No. I'm up 3. And then if they take my knight, I get their bishop. Okay. I've done like 40 or 50 puzzles since then, I think. And I remembered that. That's the answer now, because if they run away with their bishop, I can run away with my knight, and I'm up on the exchange. Because look, right now I have 3 minor pieces, and they only have 2. They take 1, I take 1, then I'm up a minor piece. Holy cow. Should I try to do one more and get back above 2,000? That's probably a mistake. But I'm glad I remembered that puzzle. Okay. Here I'm about to be checkmated. It's the first thing that I notice. If I don't do something about this rook. For example, if I try some kind of weird queen sacrifice here, that's just checkmate. Right? If I capture here, they capture back, and they're still threatening mate, but I just saw something else. There's this. Check. Oh, but right now they can block it with the bishop, which would be guarded by the rook. Or they could block with the rook. Wait. What if I check? Then they can't mate me, right? They block with the bishop. Then I take this rook. If they take back, I get the rook. And I'm threatening mate. Because I don't think it works if I take here first. Wait, if I take here first, they come back. I check. Then they block with the rook. And they're still threatening mate. Right? If I take first, they take back. I don't have a rook down here anymore. I say check. They can block with the rook. And I can't take it with my queen because of this bishop here. And if I try to come back in any way, they just mate me down here. So I think I have to check first. Because then if they block with the rook, I take with the rook and it's check. They take with the bishop and it's check again, and it's going to be mate. So I check. They're going to block with the bishop. Then I take this rook, threatening mate. They take back. I take the rook. So I win 2 rooks, I think. Okay, they blocked with the bishop. So now I take this. No. Oh my goodness. I almost messed up. If I take with the rook, it's not check. And they mate me here. Oh. Poopy. But if I take with the queen, it is check. They have to take back. And then there, here, here. $2,000. I'm stopping. Thank you for watching. We'll try again another day.